So, what if you could really, truly own your little corner of the internet? We're about to break down a blueprint for a whole new digital world, something people are starting to call Web4. And it's designed from the ground up to fix some of the biggest problems with the web we use every single day.
Oh man, it's that feeling, right? That feeling of just complete powerlessness. You pour all this time and energy into building a community, a following, maybe even your business, and then poof, some platform can just snap its fingers and take it all away. That frustration? That's exactly what we're talking about today. The root of the problem is this. Your entire digital life, your identity, all your content, your friends and followers, it doesn't actually belong to you. It's all sitting in these giant centralized silos owned by a handful of tech companies. You're basically just a tenant on their land, and you can get evicted at any time for any reason.
And this really lays out the choice we have. Over on the left, you've got the rented web. That's where we are now. You need permission for everything, and your data is the product being sold. On the right, though, that's the vision for an owned web. Your data, your rules. Value flows directly to you, and whatever you build is yours to keep. And you can take it with you wherever you go.
So how do we get to that owned web? Well, it's not just about building better tech. It actually starts with completely rewriting the basic rules for how the internet even works. And it all boils down to 3 core requirements. First up, self-sovereign identity. I want you to imagine your digital ID like a passport that you and only you own. You can use it to get into any service, but you never actually hand it over. It's yours. It's not tied to Google or Apple or Meta. It's completely yours. Second is structural decentralization. And this is a huge architectural shift. Forget connecting to these giant data centers owned by a few companies. Instead, imagine a web where we all connect directly to each other through millions of small personal nodes. This creates a network that's just naturally more resilient, more private, and almost impossible for any one person or company to censor. And the third rule? Zero tax economics. Just think about that 30% cut Apple takes, or the big fees on YouTube or Twitch. They call it the success tax. This new model, it gets rid of it completely. It lets value flow directly from a supporter to a creator, with no giant middleman taking a huge slice of the pie.
Yep, you're seeing that right. 0%. The goal is a take rate of 0. The platform is just there to give you the tools, not to tax you for being successful. Every single bit of value you create is yours to keep. It's a total flip of the current economic model of the web.
Okay, so those are the principles, the big ideas. But how do you actually build it? Let's take a look at one company's game plan, which breaks the whole thing down into 5 key pillars that all lock together. To pull this off, you need 5 core pieces: a passport for your identity, your own territory to build on, the tools to create amazing things, a totally new backbone to support it all, and finally, a physical gateway to bring it all into your hands. Let's dig into each one. So the first pillar, the very foundation of your online sovereignty, is your digital passport. They call it UIID, which stands for Universal Integrated Identity Decoupled. Now here's the really crucial part. This one single secure profile works everywhere, across any app. But most importantly, you own your social graph. All your connections, all your followers, they belong to you. That's the bedrock of everything. It means you can take your entire audience with you anywhere you go. All right, so if UID is your passport, then SNAS, or Social Network as a Service, that's your very own sovereign territory. This is where you get to build your home on the web. So instead of being stuck in some one-size-fits-all feed, SNAS lets creators launch their own fully branded communities. And because of that 0% revenue share model, you can finally escape what they call the algorithmic cage. That endless game of trying to please the algorithm just to be seen on someone else's platform. Of course, to build your community and your business, you're going to need tools. And that's where the third pillar, Thrive, comes into play. You can think of it as the essential toolkit for every single citizen of this new web. The whole idea here is to just get rid of a massive barrier to entry, super expensive software. Instead of paying hundreds, even thousands a year for subscriptions, Thrive wants to provide professional-grade business and creative software suites for free. The goal is to make digital productivity a basic right, not a luxury. Now, all of this has to run on something, right? You can't build a new web on the old servers. Pillar 4, Arctic, is that fundamental infrastructure layer. It's the decentralized backbone for everything. So how does this work? Well, Arctic uses decentralized storage and edge computing. Basically, it means data is spread out all across the network instead of being in one giant building somewhere. This gets rid of any single point of failure, which makes the whole system incredibly resilient against the kinds of outages and central control we see with today's cloud providers. And that brings us to the final piece of this puzzle, WYNIX. This is the physical gateway that brings this whole idea of sovereignty all the way down to the actual hardware you hold in your hand. WYNIX is actually a hardware division, building things like phones and notebooks that are designed from the start to be your personal server. These devices can natively host your identity, your UID, and your community node, giving you actual physical control over your digital life. It completes the circle of independence. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This is a massive, incredibly ambitious vision. But the biggest question, the one that always comes up, is how do you get people to actually use it? Well, the plan here is a top-down strategy, specifically designed to overcome the powerful network effect of the current web. And the strategy is fascinating. Instead of starting from the bottom and working their way up, the idea is to target the top 1% of creators. And we're talking global superstars with the most dedicated audiences in the world. The thinking is if you can move a massive, passionate audience over, you don't just move content, you actually move the entire standard for how people expect the internet to work. And really, this quote just says it all. It perfectly summarizes the entire philosophy behind this blueprint. It's not about building a better walled garden. It's about tearing all the walls down and returning power to us, the individual users, out at the edges of the network. So what do you think? Is this a crazy pipe dream, or is this a real glimpse of the future, a web where you actually own your digital life? It's perfectly summed up in that old saying, your keys, your kingdom. It's a really compelling vision, and it definitely challenges all of us to rethink what the internet could be and maybe what it should be.